Okay. Um, so, uh, okay. So, the diseases of the digestive system. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. E. coli, I'm sure you've seen these guys already. Okay, so the GI tract. Okay, the accessory structures. These are things you should learn from anatomy. Okay. Okay. So the GI tract is the main passageway from which we actually encounter pathogens, actually, because we eat stuff, right? And you know, food is immensely more dirty than air. Okay, so a lot of um, pathogens get in through our digestive tract, and a lot of our immune system is located in the digestive tract. Okay. Okay. The gas. Okay. So, okay. The normal microbiota, there's a lot of bacteria in saliva. There's a lot of bacteria inside your mouth. Okay. Um, try to limit those, but they're still there. Okay. There's very few microorganisms that live in the stomach because of HCl production, right? The pH is too low and stuff like that. But there are microorganisms that live in the stomach, actually. We used to think that was sterile, but it's not. Okay. Okay. The other place where there's large amounts of bacteria is your large intestine. Okay. Both of those bacteria are either anaerobes or facultative anaerobes, and there's lots and lots of them. In fact, um, there's 100 billion bacteria per gram of feces. Uh, in other words, there's a trillion bacteria per 10 kilograms of feces. That is a lot, right? So it's actually pretty interesting to study. Okay. All right. So diseases of the mouth. So this is your gums, right? Okay. So the first thing that forms is dental plaque. Okay. The dental plaque is a biofilm. So here, it's actually done by S. mutans. Okay. S. mutans like grows in sugar. Okay, so Streptococcus mutans actually requires sugar, like it's very heavily requires sugar to grow. So that's why eating, sweet candy and all this stuff is it causes cavities to grow. Okay, the gram-positive mutans converts gram-positive converts the sugar to dextrin, which is a polysaccharide that forms plaque, and then after that plaque forms, you have other things that come in. Okay. 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 So you can see the plaque starting to form here. Okay, as opposed to just sugar growth. Okay, so here again, eating sugar is um, causes tooth decay. Okay, so here you have a healthy tooth, a little bit of plaque, starts to decay, especially in between teeth and stuff like that. That's why flossing, events decay, you decay through the enamel into the dentin, and then decay in the pulp. And stuff. It's what causes pain and stuff like that. Okay. Okay. Gingivitis is inflammation of the gums. Periodontitis is a worse version. So healthy gums, this is gingivitis. This is periodontal pockets. Okay. And then this is periodontitis or trench mouth. Okay. Okay. Okay, so why are sugarless candies and gum, which actually contain sugar alcohols, not considered kerogenic? Because they're not processed by SMU tanks. And honestly, the amount of sugar there is very low. Okay. Um, okay. Okay. So again, that's staphylococcal food poisoning, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Okay. Food poisoning. Um, Toxins are produced when the organism is allowed to incubate in food. The Staph aureus outgrows most bacteria in high osmotic pressure and temperature. Um, what happens is, okay, you take food, you cook it, you kill everything when you cook it, okay, but you leave it alone, right, or you touch it, okay, and you get staphylococcus on the hands, okay. Now, because most people normally have staphylococcus everywhere, okay, the food is left at room temperature. The Now that you killed off all the competition, the staphylococcus can grow very easily, and they can actually survive higher temperatures and more salt levels than most food, most bacteria. So they're going to thrive faster. Okay, and what's going to happen is they're going to form toxins and stuff like that. Okay, when you reheat the food, you can kill the bacteria, but you won't break down the toxin. If you don't break down the toxin, when you eat it, you will get staphylococcal intoxication, not infection. Intoxication is or with toxin, right? That is food poisoning, and that is the difference between staph infection and staph intoxication is how fast it affects you. If it's 1 to 6 hours, then it's intoxication. Okay, if it's a day or two, then it's infection. Okay. Okay. Uh, Necessary. Uh, um, they produce a very potent toxin called shingotoxin. Okay. The doses can be very small. The infectious dose is very, very small. If I remember correctly, it's like 10 cells. Um, okay. Okay. So the treatment, okay, is Shigella. It goes inside the cell. They start replicating inside the cell. Okay, and really, it's kind of this is how they avoid the immune system. Once it gets into the cell, they can go through the cell and not into the bloodstream first. Okay. Okay. So yeah, you can go through the bloodstream and stuff like that. Okay. Okay. Salmonella. Um, gram-negative facultative anaerobe. Okay. So And this is salmonellosis. I'm not sure if you can hear the sound. If not, if you can, just ignore it. It'll go away for a while. Okay. So these guys go from the cells into the lymph node, and from the lymph node into the bloodstream. These guys, they don't care that they're ingested by macrophages. They replicate right through them, which is kind of scary. Okay. Okay. So salmonella is associated with chicken and egg production. Okay. It's also associated with reptiles and stuff like that. Which is, like they tell you all, like almost all turtles have salmonella and stuff like that. Okay. Okay. Typhoid fever. Okay. Caused by salmonella, subtype typhi. This one is kind of weird. Typhoid fever used to be much more common. It's rare in the U.S. today due to sanitation, but 1 to 3% of the patients become chronic carriers, and they harbor the organism in the gallbladder. Okay, and so they spread it. I'm sure you guys have heard the term Typhoid Mary. Okay, Typhoid Mary is a real person. Okay, and what she did was she was a cook, and that was her profession, that was her career. She didn't know how to do anything else, and she had typhoid, but she never got sick, so she never believed that she actually had typhoid. Okay, so and they were, she wanted to work as a cook, and every time she started working as a cook, people around her started getting sick with typhoid fever. Okay, and they knew with her, they fired her, they told her to stop, etc., etc., etc. But from her perspective, she was like, I don't have any symptoms of disease. I don't know what the F you're talking about. I need to feed my family, and I need to cook. If I don't cook, if I don't do my job, I'm not gonna have money to eat and stuff like that. Right? From her point of view, that was reasonable. And so eventually, what they had to do was actually just they literally have to lock her up for health safety issues. Fever, okay, much lower. This is spread through. Typhoid fever is spread through uncleanliness, feces and stuff like that. So, which is why as we got cleaner, there's been less and less cases of it. Salmonella really, because it can survive in commercial chicken and egg production, it can survive in the albumin. Albumin is about most of the egg white. Okay, so there's much more salmonella occurring nowadays. Okay. Okay. Fibro, cholera. So apparently I lost one of my ancestors to this. Not that I ever met them. Cholera was caused by Fibro cholerae. It is a gram-negative rod. It is actually the bacteria, the virus, okay, that causes the bacteria to produce the cholera toxin. Okay, so not all vibrio have it. It's a bacteriophage that harbors the toxin. Okay, the toxin causes the host cells to secrete enormous amounts of electrolytes and water. Okay, you can lose 12 to 20 liters of fluid per day. Your blood volume is 6. Okay, so you can literally lose enough volume, fluid volume to go into shock, collapse, organ failure, death. Okay. And yes, people used to die of cholera all the time. Now, the treatment is oral rehydration salts, so something along the lines of like Gatorade, and also antibiotics. Okay. Okay. Obviously, cholera is because it is spread through feces. It is highly correlated to sanitation and sewage, right? Okay. So high levels of sewage, uh, um, more cholera. Okay. So countries reporting cholera. Okay, again, the poor countries of the world, the hotter places in the world as well. Okay. Um, so oral rehydration solutions, salt, sugar, water, is basically what Gatorade is made from. Stockpiling vaccines for cholera. Okay, the ultimate solution: proper sanitation. Proper sanitation, no more cholera. Okay. Okay, we'll skip this one. Okay. E. coli. So E. coli, the only one we'll talk about really is this E. coli EHEC, or otherwise known as 0157H7. Okay. This one you probably heard in the news, right? This is where E. coli poisoning. This is especially true, like hamburger. Okay. So there's a couple of reasons for this. A couple of reasons why these are real serious outbreaks. Okay. First of all, E. coli is naturally formed in our gut. It's also naturally formed in the gut of cows. Okay. So the gut of cows often end up in hamburger. Okay, because hamburger is meat that where you grind up a bunch of things. And the other reason why it's so commonly found in hamburger is because the hamburger is not the meat of one cow. Your hamburger that you eat at McDonald's is not the meat of one cow. Okay, it's the meat of many cows that are ground together. So what will happen is the bacteria, if there's one, E. coli population that got in there, it will spread throughout the whole batch, and the whole batch, can be contaminated with E. coli. Okay. The other thing about E. coli that makes this one really bad and relatively new. But you did have E. coli outbreaks in the 50s and stuff. You have it more recently, and that is the American obsession with corn. Okay, if you close your eyes, you picture a cow, and you picture a cow eating. Okay, so do that for a second. Okay, your thinking is eating grass. The answer is no, it's not. The cows that we feed on eat corn. Okay, you might think they're the same thing, but they're not. Uh, Grass is corn is harder to digest for the cow, so um, there's more stuff added to it that makes these E. coli easier to grow in larger numbers. I think because of the acid of the corn. Um, I forgot what it was, but I gotta go review that. But it really doesn't matter. It's just like this E. coli, the strain of E. coli grows better in cows because they're fed so much corn. Okay, their diet is not naturally corn. Okay, but corn makes them grow faster, which is important to farmers. Okay. Okay. Traveler's diarrhea, also known as Montezuma's revenge, which is something I always liked. Okay. Okay. So what about Campylobacter? Okay. Helicobacter peptide ulcer disease. So this type of bacteria, okay, we learned about this in microbiology lab. They grow in stomach acid by producing urease. They convert ammonia, or sorry, they convert urea to alkaline ammonia. Okay, and that ammonia neutralizes the acid around them. Okay. Okay. So they can, here in the Helicobacter pylori, they produce alkaline ammonia, which neutralizes a hydrochloric acid, so they can start eating away at your stomach lining and eventually enter the bloodstream. Okay. Okay. This stuff we can skip. Okay. This one we can skip as well. Okay. C. diff. Okay. C. diff is a gram-positive endospore forming anaerobe. It causes more death than all the other intestinal infections combined, and most of it is in healthcare settings. And the reason why this is in healthcare settings is because C. diff is a post-surgery complication a lot of times. Because for surgery, they have to give you antibiotics to prevent infections. Antibiotics kill competing intestinal bacteria, so it allows C. diff to have no competition, so there's no microbial antagonism. So they eliminate the intestinal bacteria, and that allows C. diff to grow. Okay. Okay. So small eater slider at a flea market. This is always this case is always salmonella. Okay. Like I said, turtles are famous for having salmonella. This is why they don't allow those small little turtles to be sold. They're actually illegal to sell. Although you can still find it everywhere, especially in Chinatown and stuff. Okay. I used to have a lot of those. So the reason why they don't allow people to sell those is because they have salmonella, and little kids and little round objects go in mouths very easily. Don't ask. It does. Okay. Okay. Hepatitis. Mumps. Okay. Mumps, hepatitis, blah, blah. Okay. So mumps is a virus that targets the parotid glands. So you can see that here. So this is mumps. So if that's your symptom, then you're fine. Okay, but it can also cause orchitis, which is the inflammation of the testes. Okay, and that is obviously very, very painful. Meningitis, it can also cause inflammation of the ovaries, just like the testes, and then pancreatitis as well. Okay, and in some cases, the meningitis caused month can be lethal. Okay. Okay, hepatitis. Okay, it's an inflammation of the liver. So, okay, hepatitis viruses. Let's go through these. Okay, hepatitis A. Okay, single-stranded RNA. Okay, it spreads to the liver, kidneys, and spleen. It goes fecal oral basically. What happens is the symptoms last 2 to 21 days. So this is an RNA virus. It doesn't stay very long. It just causes liver damage and then it goes away. Okay. There's a vaccine for it. Okay. Okay. Hep B and Hep C are different. Hep B, okay, is a double-stranded DNA virus that gets into the cells. Okay, it's prevented by a vaccine, but once you have it, you have it. Okay, the DNA virus gets into the cells and it'll go away. Okay, and Hep B. Okay, so this is Hep B. Okay, you can get chronic Hep B. Chronic Hep B can lead to liver cirrhosis or liver cancer. Okay, because again, the chronic hepatitis can lead to cells growing. Cells growing can always lead to cancer. Okay. All right. Hep C. Hep C. It is a virus. There's no vaccine for Hep C. A lot of cases become chronic, in which case you constantly have, you can't get rid of it. And because it's chronic, okay, so because it's chronic, your liver cells are always being destroyed by Hep C virus. In response, your body is always generating new liver cells faster than normal. That faster than normal will lead to cancer. Okay, so 25% can lead to cancer, not will, but 25% will develop liver cirrhosis or cancer. Okay. Okay, so Hep C damaged liver. Hep A, B, and C, you do have to understand. Hep D and E, you do not, because that's rather uncommon. Okay. 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 This is Hep A. Hep A usually is ingestion. The symptoms. The blah, blah, blah. This is Hep A. This is infection. The symptoms are going to be jaundice, etc., fever. Okay. Okay, viral gastroenteritis, rotavirus and norovirus, they're very similar. They are spread through fecal oral transmission. Both of them are fecal oral transmission. They they both have a low infectious dose, and they both do the same thing: massive amounts of diarrhea and vomiting. Okay, so these are the viruses that you hear about on cruise ships and stuff, or they spread really quickly through a cruise ship, and like the whole cruise ship runs out of toilet paper and all that other crap. Okay, it's pretty. It sounds pretty funny now, but it's not if you're on the cruise ship. Okay. All right. Okay, so ergot poisoning. So, okay. So ergot poisoning, mycotoxins produced by this organism right there. It grows in grains, in particularly rye. Okay. Hold on. Okay. Um, so here's the reason for the Salem witch trials. Okay. So yes, the religious fever, the religion played a role in that. It was the witch trials, but the original reason it was ergot poisoning. Okay. So what happened is, look, back in those days, in spring, there's nothing to eat. Okay, you haven't grown new crops. The ground's still relatively frozen. There's no animals out to hunt. Okay, so you ate whatever you have left over from the winter. Okay, and during the winter, they went back to check like what the weather conditions. They had warm and wet winter. In warm and wet winters, you grow a lot of mold and you grow a lot of fungus. Okay, and the fungus ended up on the rye. That area grew a lot of rye. They grew up, and the fungus ended up on the rye. Okay, if you eat this fungus in high enough amounts, you get convulsions and hallucinations. Okay. Okay. So sorry, what happened? Okay. So these women, and obviously this affected the poor more than the rich, right? Rich, they had, they could buy food and et cetera, et cetera. The poor women ate a lot of the crappy mold infested rye bread, and they got ergot poisoning. And what happens is they started having convulsions and hallucinations, which, given the religious fervor of the time, they started hallucinating like the devil, and basically all broke loose from there. Okay, so there you go. Okay, toxin poisoning. This is something found in peanuts usually. Okay. Okay. Shrooms. All right. Dysentery. Uh, or that's this one. Um, this is one more commonly. These are the protozoans. This is the most commonly ingested protozoan disease. Again, the symptoms are diarrhea. Okay. Hydrogen sulfide, digest. Okay. Hydrogen sulfide detected in breath or stools. That's the usual test. Okay. Okay. Let's get cryptospora. This one as well. Okay. helmintic diseases of the digestive tract. So you definitely have to understand tapeworms, hookworms, um, ascarosis, and trichinosis. Okay, so the more important ones. Okay, so tapeworms. Okay, tapeworms. Okay, so there's a tapeworm. It's in the eye. Okay. Okay, so tapeworm life cycle. Okay, the tapeworm is basically head reproductive system. Okay, so they secrete large numbers of eggs and large numbers of sperm and little packets and feces. The eggs hatch. Okay, um, and they dig their way into muscle. Um, Humans ingest the undercooked meat, which goes into adult tapeworms in the intestine. Um, okay. Uh, and then you diagnose either the segments that come off in the feces and stuff. Okay. Okay. So there you go. Okay. So we usually don't give tapeworms to other people, but generally we ingest them. Okay. 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 We don't have to. This one, pinworms. Okay. Pinworms. So these are pinworms. Okay. Where they hang out is in the anus. Okay. What they do is they lay eggs around the anus, which causes a local itching. What they do is they hide inside the digestive tract. Okay. But they come out to lay eggs on the surface of the skin near the anus when you're sleeping. Okay, when your body system quiets down, when you stop moving quite as much, it causes those worms to kind of come out and lay eggs, which is what causes the localized, butt scratching, and itching. Okay, and then that gets the eggs on their hands, and then kids touch other kids, and they it ends up in their mouth, and they swallow. Next thing, they spread pinworms. Okay. Um, okay. Hookworms. So these are hookworms. They get into your okay. Uh, they actually these guys are worse because the pinworms and tapeworms they feed on like what's coming through. Hookworms they actually feed on blood and tissue of your body. Okay. So they cause bleeding, which causes anemia, lethargic behavior. I'm not sure why it causes pica. Okay, but apparently it does. Okay. All right. Okay. Ascar analysis. This one. Okay. Here's the worms. Okay. Um, what happens is basically we infect each other with it. Okay. Um, okay. So larvae develop in adults in the intestinal tract and emerges from the anus, mouth, or nose. Most likely. So okay. Okay. What worm we don't have to know. Okay. Uh, trichinosis. Okay. this one you definitely do. This is why you do not eat rare pork. Okay, you can eat rare steak. Um, you can sort of eat rare chicken, but you can't eat rare pork. Okay, um, not that you should eat rare chicken, but you can apparently eat, like, they have sushi restaurants that prefer raw chicken, that serve raw chicken. I still haven't tried that yet. But apparently it's the same if you cut into the middle of the meat and stuff like that. But we'll see. Okay. But you can't eat raw pork. Okay. So pork, first of all, pigs eat everything. Okay. Et cetera, et cetera. And these guys get into their intestinal wall, they dig into the muscle, okay, and they form uh, larvae that encrust in the muscles. And when we eat the pork, it ends up inside our intestines, okay. Um, so one of the reasons, or probably one of the reasons, okay, why and there are certain religions where eat pork is forbidden to be eaten, particular Muslims and Jews. It's precisely this. Okay, um, at that time when these religions were being, formed, we couldn't cook pork hot enough to kill these things, and therefore they ended up, causing disease. And societies that didn't eat pork didn't have this disease, and therefore it become codified into religion as the reason why that we have um, these rules about eating pork. Okay. All right. All right. Stop right there. I'll see you for the next chapter.